Transport and communication. Children, this is the third video of the chapter British policies and their impact. Today we are going to discuss about the transport and communication, how it had an impact due to the British policies in our country. So in the first half of the 19th century, India had no means of transport and communication. It was only after the initiative of Lord Dalhousie a great change came into our country, and therefore he was the one who in his Minute on Railway has outlined the utility of constructing railway lines in India. He only took initiative and made people realize that how important railways would be if it would be introduced in our country. So the first railway line which was opened for the country, for the railways, or the first train rather I would say, which started from the Bombay to Thane, and that was in the year 1853. So in the year 1853, first railway line could be run or could be opened from Mumbai to Thane. Now we'll see we can see that it was done on the year 1853. Now the impacts of the introduction of railways in India. So it had a greater impact on our country, and we'll see one by one all the points. So the first point, faster and easier. It made the easier and faster transportation of raw materials from all parts of the country, which means easily from all parts of the country India could connect to each other just to sending the raw materials easily. Transportation was much more easier, because before then these only the sea voyages were possible, or through land route the raw materials were transported. But through the introduction of railways, it worked really as a boon to our country, and it made faster and easier our work. Okay, so railways were also used to retransport manufactured goods from the ports to markets in interiors of the country. So it was not only the source to send the raw materials, rather to finish goods also. So after preparing the goods or manufacturing the goods, to distribute it to the country's various part of the country, this was quite good or quite helpful for us. Now the areas which were quite militarily important were linked through railways. The areas like I could say Delhi, Meerut, or major parts of the south now could easily connect to from one part of the country to the another part of the country. In case of any emergency, in case of any need, we could send easily food grains or anything or the supplies of arms and ammunitions from one place to the another. Then political and administrative unity was achieved, because even the remotest villages was now brought under the fold of the British administration. Now even a small part of the country could also be ruled and administered by the Britishers on a very easy note, easily that they could be administered. Then famines became less severe, very less severe. How? Because easily if any part of the country is facing the problem of famine, definitely the other part of the country would like to help the part which is facing the famine. So easily things or the food articles or anything could be transported from one place to the another. Then industrial development also quickened, as factories were continuously supplied with raw materials. Okay, so as we know, for industry what do we need? First of all, the raw material, manpower, and the transportation. So once the product is prepared, then to sell it to the market also, that is also very very important. So railway was providing each and every facility to the people. Then people of religious caste, various religions, caste and regions traveled from one place to another, and that too together. As we see in our country, previously there was lots of caste system prevalent in our country, in which Brahman could not sit next to Shudra, or high class society cannot sit to the lower class society. But the railway was the one, it was the invention, or it was the change which has brought the great change even in our society. So I would say the transport and communication has worked as a boon for our Indian society, Indian economy, and Indian administration also. Now, the introduction of modern education. Before the arrival of the Britishers, we have seen the education system in our country was very, very flexible. There were pathshalas and madrasas in which a few students were taught by their teachers. There were no prescribed textbook. There was nothing, syllabus was set up, no prescribed textbook was there. Whatever Maulvis or whatever Pandits used to say or think, they used to teach, they used to impart the knowledge as per them, and everything was imparted in the form of orally everything was done. No examination system. Generally the houses of the teachers, that was the place where children used to go and study. So there was no fixed curriculum, and teachers taught whatever they feel like. Sanskrit, Persian, and mathematics were the most popular subjects. Science and geography were not taught. So if science was not taught, that means the more of the invention, discoveries, and new thinking or creativity was not coming up. There were also no system of examination. Most students were unaware of new developments and advances in knowledge that were taking place elsewhere in the world, as we could not communicate to the other parts of the world, or we could not inherit something new which is going around the world. That was impossible in absence of education, in absence of knowledge. So in the early years, East India Company did nothing to promote education, but persuaded the Christian missionaries. The company gradually began to take interest in this field. So in beginning, Britishers have not done anything, but slowly and steadily, with the initiative of missionaries, this change started to begin. So in 1781, Calcutta Madrasa was established, and in 1791, Sanskrit College at Banaras started functioning in 1801. The Fort William College was set up in Calcutta. The Charter Act sanctioned a sum of 1 lakh rupee per year for educational purpose, but a dispute arose about the way the money was to be spent. So, an amount was already given of 1 lakh rupee in promotion of the education. One group wanted it to be spent. So, why this problem was there? So, though the money was given, 1 lakh rupee according to the charter 1813, so it was divided into two ideologies, or two groups started advocating it. One group said that they wanted it to spend it on the promotion of traditional Indian learning, that whatever is coming from the beginning till now, and the other group said no, we should promote the more of the English medium schools, or rather I would people would should study more of the English. So therefore this controversy arose, and therefore it resulted in Angelist and Orientalist. So the group which wanted to spend on the promotion of traditional Indian learning was known as the Orientalist, and the other group which was led by Thomas Macaulay, it favored the promotion of Western education. So that was the change which was coming up over here. The deadlock came to an end in 1835 when the government decided to use the money to promote Western education. So finally, whatever the Angelists were promoting, that only came into scene. So therefore, this was the way through the medium of instruction of English came in our country. Now the Wood's Dispatch. The Wood's Dispatch was initiated in the year 1854, which made various changes in the education system of our country. Each district was to have an education department and educational institutions from the primary to the university level. So here the importance to education was given. Now not only the people started focusing only on the primary level, whereas now people were promoting the higher education also. So therefore Wood's Dispatch talked about from primary level to the university level. Institutions for training teachers were also set up. So whereas in beginning we have seen that there was no training for the teachers, whatever gurus or Maulvis used to feel like used to teach us, but Wood's Dispatch has brought a very good change in our education system. In 1857, the universities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras were set up. What were the effects of its dispatch? The educational policies of British benefited only the urban middle class who worked at subordinate administrative posts. Obviously, the Britishers were introducing all these changes so that they may get a group of people, those who would work for them. So why Britishers were much interested in promoting Western education in our country? So that the more and more Indians could be educated, and those educated people could be employed by the Britishers for their own work. So in fact, the main aim of the British government was to produce English speaking clerks who could work at much lower wages than their British counterparts. So basically this training and everything was done so that the Indians could get education, they start speaking English, learning English, and then they don't have to bring the Britishers from abroad, from their own country to here, and to pay them higher prices or higher salaries. So here, if they wanted to train the local people, where they had to pay very low wages for the same work. So the government did little to spread education in the villages. As a result, a majority of Indians were illiterate. Technical education for Indians were also neglected. Why? Because Britishers were only focusing to make or to train the clerical jobs, to give the clerical jobs to the Indian people, not the technical or some industrial work to the Indians. However, the introduction of modern education did have some positive effects, and Indians learn about modern Western political ideas such as liberty, equality, democracy, and nationalism. So as it is said, no, whatever happens, that happens for good. So here we got the benefit of introduction of Western education in our country, and we definitely benefited from the changes which were brought in our education. So it was Indian educated in the tradition who later headed the country's freedom movement, which definitely added in the freedom movement of our country. So this we conclude our chapter, children.